Hey everyone, it's Dr. Ramani and welcome back to this YouTube channel on narcissism, narcissistic relationships, healing from narcissistic relationships. And here's the question today, because I think it's one that comes up all the time and more. Should we give geniuses a free pass to be narcissistic? It's an interesting question, right? And this is a question, honestly, for the ages. When you read biographies of big, famous people, artists, writers, world rulers, warriors, it's clear that a lot of them, if you really dig deep, are pretty narcissistic. History books are kind of mostly a ledger of a lot of narcissistic people because by and large, the healthy folks don't end up there. Read a biography of any people, of a really famous person. Tell me what you learn. But what about in modern times? If someone is a brilliant fashion designer, do they get a free pass to be narcissistic? A brilliant filmmaker, free pass? Tech industry innovator, cancer doctor, medical researcher, actor, artist, athlete, novelist, do they all get a free pass? People who defy the normal bounds, who are geniuses, who are exceptional, who have changed the world with their innovations, who have given heartbreaking performances, have written amazing things, created unforgettable pieces of art, who have changed how we communicate with each other, who can perform gravity-defying athletic maneuvers, who create treatments which save lives. Do they get a free pass? If ever there was a video where I wish I could hear your voices, this is it. I'll settle for the comments. But do these geniuses, these innovators, these visionaries, call them what you will, do they get a free pass to be narcissistic? I can't hear your answers. I'll be able to read them shortly. But what my answer is, no. Lots of people believe that the grandiosity that's so integral to narcissism is why these geniuses, now and throughout history, were why they were able to push the limits. They believed that things could be done, that the rest of us would say, no, I can't even conceive of that. And that change, and their innovations changed the world. I don't believe that grandiosity is necessary to achieve those things, but it can't hurt. In fact, again, if you really crack the history books, there is often the person who is credited with the discovery. Just the way science and all the rest of it works, that there's likely some people who cracked it at around the same time. The more validation-seeking one is the one who ended up in the history books or maybe won the Nobel Prize. I once watched an interview with a guy, I don't know if he was a filmmaker or a director or something. He was offering up commentary on the film The Devil Wears Prada, ultimate narcissism film, right? And in that film, he was talking about the portrayal of this fictional character, Miranda Priestley, the exacting and narcissistically abusive fashion boss who makes her assistants and just about everybody else's lives miserable, and she betrays them and all of that. The commentary guy was saying, so what if she behaves like that? Her character is meant to be a genius, and that makes it okay. And that's when I had a say what moment. But watching that video and that guy saying that, it made me reflect philosophically on this idea that if a person is at the top of their game, do they have the right to treat other people badly? I don't mean assault them or engage in criminal behavior, but really psychologically invalidating or controlling awful behavior. I think a lot of people will not say they can, but will twist it and say, well, if you're going to work with a genius, you just have to be thick-skinned, which is sort of a twisted way of rationalizing the behavior by saying it is a fault of the people who cannot tolerate the entitled, imperious, and abusive behavior, rather than saying it's not okay to be abusive. I think we are now more than ever in an era where genius and narcissism and antagonism and awful behavior are really conflated. And because some of these so-called geniuses are making a fortune, and they are our modern day kings, empresses, and warlords, we just accept it. Listen, most of us don't and never will interact with these modern day geniuses. We just live our lives But when we give a free pass to the tyrannical fashionista, artist, movie director, actor, athlete, financier, tech person, or doctor, it trickles down. And we simply all start normalizing toxic behavior. Then, when the local school principal or grocery store manager or parent or partner start behaving horribly, the societal normalization does give license to everyone to behave badly. This little YouTube channel is not going to stop narcissism or narcissistic abuse. My goal is to shed a small light on it and validate your experience in these relationships. Many of our modern day geniuses and visionaries will continue to behave badly. You can set a clock by that. This isn't about that behavior stopping. They are going to do what they do, and they're going to get away with it because they're making someone money, usually themselves. But it is about awareness. It's about not staying in an abusive job with a so-called genius, or putting up with BS in a relationship because you believe you're with a genius of some kind and need to support them, or seeking out abusive mentorship from an abusive person. Listen, I worked in academia for decades. It's a sort of genius-y space, and I cannot tell you the number of ragingly narcissistic people who graduate students and fellows and colleagues would endure because they were a genius who published and got big, fancy global awards. F you. This also begs the question, do you have to be narcissistic to be a genius? And I believe the answer to that is no as well. I do recognize that the discipline, focus, hard work, and out-of-the-boxness that many genius-y types have may make them a bit odd. They may not fit in with usual social structures, may not be a lazy Sunday lie-in kind of person. But I don't think narcissism is a requirement for extraordinary achievement. You know what I mean by some of these geniuses. These are sometimes the odd folks, these geniusy types who will exercise and meditate at 4 a.m. and then eat some grain that we've never heard of at 5 a.m. and have already answered 50 emails by 6 a.m. and then go into a sound bath and then write their novel and then do a million other things and invent a new tech platform, and then they show up at a black tie event that night. That sort of obsessive, don't need sleep, genius precision to life is also a trope that actually does align with narcissism and an obsessive focus on their own rhythms above all else. Certainly selfishness helps at this sort of enacted genius. It helps because the genius becomes so able to focus on one thing. But a genius type may also construct a life a non-narcissistic genius could construct a life that doesn't bring other people down. For example, they may decide not to have children or get married, or may choose a partner that works in a similar way to them. Let's face it, empathy slows people down. The narcissistic genius is not going to sully themselves with the prosaic emotional needs of other people. Can you imagine? I have known good, solid, empathic people who go on to do good, amazing stuff. But maybe the non-narcissistic people are also not on the validation train in such a heavy way. And maybe the social, relational stuff matters. I know it does. It matters more to non-narcissistic folks. And that takes them off the single-minded track of geniosity. I still don't believe narcissism is a precondition of excellence, though. I never will. We can't stop this narcissistic genius worship, but we can stop feeding the beast. All of us need to stop worshiping at the altar of this. You can respect the innovation, but not the innovator's behavior. You can recognize the artistry and also recognize that the artists behave badly. You can be wowed or even helped by someone's scientific discovery and then disavow their abusive behavior. It's okay that you say and identify that they're behaving badly and stop fawning, because that's the problem. We do fawn. They don't care what people think, because there's a line of people around the block who will fawn over them and put up with their bad behavior. You don't need to be in that line. The idea of the terrible genius, the artist's temperament, the abusive demand for obedience and excellence. No, just no. The more of this we worship and enable, the harder we not only make it for ourselves, but for everybody else. When we ooh and ah at their great accomplishments. Listen, if you want to be wowed by their accomplishments, you do you. Just don't date them. Thanks again.